I am Amanda Thompson, 32 years old, and I never expected my family to betray me this badly twice. After 3 years of no contact, they showed up unannounced with suitcases in hand and forced their way into my home like it was theirs. My father stared me down and spat those words that still burn. "You don't even have a family. We're taking this house." They didn't stop there. They tried to kick me out of my own home, the one I inherited and rebuilt from nothing. "Get out. You don't deserve to be in this house," they demanded, already rearranging my furniture and claiming rooms. I didn't yell or fight back physically. I just looked them in the eyes and said calmly, "3 minutes left. To regret." Then I grabbed my phone and made the calls that changed everything. Strange sounds echoed through the house, moments later, chaos unfolding right in front of them. Before I dive into how it all went down, I want to know what time you're listening and from which city. I'm thrilled to see how far my story reaches, so drop a comment below. It started in suburban Plano, Texas, where our family looked picture perfect on the outside. But inside, the favoritism was obvious from day one. My parents poured everything into my older brother, their golden child, celebrating his every minor win while dismissing mine. He got a new car for a partial scholarship to business school, draining their savings, but when my grades shone and I wanted to pursue digital marketing, they told me to fund it myself. By 16, I was slinging coffee and retail shifts, saving every dime for community college, while he partied on their dime. The real divide hit during senior year. I won a local marketing contest, but they called it a hobby. At dinner, when acceptance letters came, they refused to help, unless I switched to teaching like my mother. "Creative jobs are for trust fund kids," my father said flatly. My brother smirked across the table. "Maybe listen to Dad, not everyone's built for success." That night sealed it. I moved out after graduation into a cramped apartment, juggling full-time work and classes. Visits home became tense holidays where they'd brag about his promotions and subtly mock my unstable path. My salvation was my grandmother, my mother's mother, who lived an hour away in a cozy cottage in Fredericksburg Hill Country. She saw my potential, teaching me independence through gardening sessions. "Amanda, define your own worth," she'd say, her hands guiding mine in the soil. "Build your own foundation, don't rely on anyone." Widowed young, she'd raised her kids solo as a seamstress, embodying the strength I needed. As college loomed, my parents pushed teaching hard, ignoring my passion. I stuck to marketing, transferring to a state university after community college, barely speaking to them by then. By 22, I graduated alone. My parents skipped for my brother's work event. Only my grandmother attended, her smile worth everything. I moved to Austin for better marketing gigs, landing an internship that turned full-time. Pay was low, but I built a portfolio, sharing an apartment and calling my grandmother weekly. Family contact faded to stiff calls, my mother always mentioning my brother's condo purchase, the comparison unspoken but heavy. Then the recession slammed 3 years ago. My agency folded overnight, doors locked, bankruptcy notice posted. Freelance dried up, fast savings vanished on rent and basics. After 3 months, eviction hit. I swallowed pride and called home. "I need help, just a loan for 1 month's rent," I pleaded. Silence, then my father's cold voice. "This is what we warned you about, your risky path." They claimed no extra funds, a lie, since they'd always found money for my brother. The call ended with no aid, not even a temporary stay. Desperate, I drove to their house in a downpour. My father answered, frowning at my packed car. "What are you doing here?" I begged for a few weeks' shelter. "This is what happens with unstable careers," he said. My mother appeared, adding, "We have plans, not a good time." They shut the door as rain soaked me. I waited in the driveway, hoping they'd reconsider, but they didn't. That night, I slept in my car at a Walmart lot, $25 left, messages to my brother ignored. For 2 weeks, car living, gym showers, library job hunts. One cold morning at a coffee shop, a former colleague spotted me. "Amanda." She slid into the seat, concern clear. I broke down, admitting the homelessness. She insisted I stay with her, made food, offered her spare room. "We're friends now," she said. Her boyfriend ran a small marketing studio. After reviewing my work, he hired me entry level. Steady pay, let me rebuild. That afternoon, a call came my grandmother's neighbor. Her pneumonia had worsened. I rushed the 3-hour drive with my friend's help arriving to see her frail in the hospital bed. "My Amanda," she whispered, handing a box with key and will. "House is yours. You have the strength." She passed 2 days later, hand in mine. The will left the cottage and $50,000 to me, small items to others. My family's faces darkened at the reading accusations flew. "She always favored you," my mother cried. I took the keys, moved in, and began renovations, turning it into my sanctuary and home office. With the inheritance, I launched Horizon Marketing, focusing on small businesses. Clients grew, I updated the cottage, new roof, kitchen, garden blooming. The small town drew me in. Neighbors welcomed with casseroles. The local bookstore owner became a friend, then more. But tension simmered. My family contested the will, failed, and started probing emails about property values. I installed cameras, sensing trouble. Their desperation peaked when I was at a conference. Neighbors texted about lights on. Cameras showed them forcing the lock, unloading boxes. I called, they declined. My brother answered the landline casually. "We're settling in. This is family property." "You're trespassing," I said. "Leave now or police come." He laughed. "Calling cops on family cruel. We have a case to challenge the will. Grandma wasn't competent." I ended the call, flew home. Arriving, I found them rearranged, my clothes shoved aside, their photos up. "You need to leave," I stated. "This house is for a real family," my mother snapped. "No husband, no kids, just you." My father added, "We will take it one way or another." I dialed 911 without a word. Police arrived, verified my deed, gave them 30 minutes to pack under supervision. As they left humiliated, I felt validation, no more hurt, just closure. The aftermath dragged months. Restraining orders, their plot exposed via texts. My brother faced probation, my parents' community service. I cut ties completely, blocked numbers, burned their last card. Life flourished. Married my partner in the Garden Foundation, helped rejection survivors like a young marketer escaping her family. I learned cutting toxic ties frees you. Self-reliance builds unbreakable value. Spot favoritism. Early set boundaries, protect your happiness from entitlement. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more resilient stories. Comment your experiences, share with those needing hope. It started in suburban Plano, Texas, where our family looked picture perfect on the outside. My father, Daniel, worked as an accountant at a local firm, always in pressed shirts, and carrying that leather briefcase like it held the family's future. My mother, Stephanie, was a high school teacher, grading papers late into the night, but keeping our ranch-style house impeccable. Then there was my older brother, Andrew, 3 years ahead of me, and the undisputed star. We had a standard 3-bedroom setup with a backyard big enough for barbecues, not wealthy, but comfortable, your typical Texas family grinding through life. From early on, the imbalance hit me hard. Andrew was the one they pinned hopes on. His C-average report cards got high fives and ice cream runs, while my straight A's were brushed off as expected from a girl like you. When he barely scraped into a state college for business with a small grant, they threw a backyard blowout complete with catered brisket and gifted him a used pickup truck that wiped out half their emergency fund. "He's our investment in the future," Dad said casually over dinner one night, as if I wasn't sitting right there. Me starting freshman year, they drilled in that I'd pay my own way. At 16, I landed a gig at the local Whataburger, flipping burgers 20 hours a week after school to stash cash for tuition. I juggled homework with greasy shifts, even winning a school award for a marketing project I did on local businesses. They nodded politely, but never celebrated it. The message sunk in. Andrew was the priority. I was the backup plan they didn't bother funding. The one light in all this was my grandmother Lauren, my mother's mother, who lived about an hour away in a quaint cottage in Fredericksburg Hill Country. She'd send me bus tickets for summer visits, while Andrew went to expensive football camps paid for by my parents. Those weeks with her were my escape. "Amanda," she'd say as we planted peppers in her garden, her calloused hands steady on mine. "Don't let them define your value. You said it yourself." She'd lost her husband young and raised my mom and aunts on her own as a bookstore clerk, scraping by but never complaining. "Always have your own roof," she'd advise. "Build it strong so no one can knock it down." As high school wrapped up, the pressure ramped up. Mom wanted me in education like her stable job summers off. Dad backed it, saying, "Marketing. That's for folks with safety nets." But I'd fallen for digital marketing in junior year after a teacher spotted my knack for campaigns and hooked me on software like Adobe. I stayed late designing flyers, entering contests, and even landing a regional win for a fake brand pitch. Parents called it cute, but not serious. Senior year boiled over with applications. I targeted affordable state schools with strong marketing programs and the local community college. Acceptances rolled in, but at family dinner, Dad shut it down. "No money for a hobby degree. Switch to teaching or business, or you're on your own." Mom avoided my eyes, picking at her plate. Andrew, home for break, chuckled. "Come on, sis, not everyone's cut for the big leagues like me." I stormed to my room, tears streaming, but by morning I had a plan. Community college full-time work, no backing down. Announcing it at breakfast, Dad shrugged. "Your choice, your regret." I graduated with honors, packed my beat-up Honda, and moved into a shared apartment in Dallas with roommates from online ads. 40 hours a week at a coffee shop and mall store, plus a 3.8 GPA in marketing classes. It was grueling, but I pushed through. I'd drive to Grandma Lauren's when I could, her pep talks fueling me. After 2 years, I transferred to a university in Austin for my bachelor's. Conversations with home, now rare and strained. By then, Andrew had graduated and snagged a junior role in sales following Dad's footsteps. Family gatherings turned into his highlight reel. Andrew's closing deals left and right. Mom would beam the air thick with unspoken digs at my freelance dreams. When I finally walked the stage at 22, it was solo parents at Andrew's company retreat. Grandma Lauren battling arthritis, but there with her walker clapped loudest. Her faith meant the world. Post-grad, I headed to Austin, full-time internship in hand at a boutique agency. The night before leaving over pie at her cottage, I confessed fears. "What if they're right and I crash?" She squeezed my hand. "The only crash is chasing their dreams, not yours. Follow your gut, I'll catch you if needed." With that, I drove off, vowing to succeed on my terms, even if it meant going it alone. Little did I know how soon that vow would be tested. The Austin internship led to a junior role at a small marketing agency, enough to scrape by, but barely cover rent. I shared a rundown apartment with 2 roommates, surviving on thrift store finds and late-night ramen. Calls with Grandma Lauren kept me grounded, her voice steadying me when my parents only offered awkward holidays. Dad grilled me on real jobs. Mom slipped me $20 bills, while Andrew's condo and bonuses dominated every conversation. My work was dismissed as artsy nonsense. Then, in 2020, the recession hit. Within weeks, my agency collapsed. I showed up one Monday to locked doors and a bankruptcy notice. Freelance work dried up and savings disappeared. When my roommates left at the end of our lease, I couldn't afford the rent. Eviction came fast, an orange slip on the door. Desperate, I called home. Mom hesitated, then Dad's voice cut in. "This is what we said would happen." That unstable career, exactly where we predicted. I begged for 1 month's rent, promising to repay. Mom murmured about Andrew's grad school bills, and Dad ended it. "You chose this path. Figure it out." I packed my Honda with clothes, laptop, and a few keepsakes, and drove to Plano in a February blizzard. Lights glowed warm in their windows as I knocked. Andrew opened the door, saw my car full of bags, and smirked. "Mom and Dad aren't home." He lied, though I saw them inside. "Please, just a few weeks," I begged. He shrugged and shut the door. I left my jacket on the porch rail, hoping they'd relent. The next morning, I saw it tossed in their trash. For 2 weeks, I lived in my car, sleeping in a Walmart lot, showering at a gym job, hunting on library Wi-Fi. My texts and voicemails went unanswered. One night, I drove past their house. Through the window, I saw them laughing together around the table as if I had never existed. One freezing morning in a coffee shop, I was hunched over job boards nursing a single tea when a voice said, "Amanda Thompson." It was Megan Carter, a former colleague. She looked put together. I was unraveling. She sat without hesitation. "Are you living in your car?" she asked softly. I nodded. Tears spilled before I could answer. "Why didn't you reach out?" she said. "We all struggled. I lost work too." Then she stood. "Pack up, you're coming with me." By that night, I had soup, a spare room, and hope. Megan's boyfriend, Brandon Reed, ran a small marketing studio. The next morning, after seeing my portfolio, he offered me an entry-level job. Low pay, but steady. I said yes, instantly. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Linda Brooks' grandma Lauren's neighbor. "Amanda, it's your grandmother. Her pneumonia's gotten worse. You should come." My heart sank. I'd tried calling during my car days but couldn't afford the trip to Fredericksburg. Now, with a roof over my head and a job starting, I knew I had to go. Hannah Brooks drove me 3 hours to Fredericksburg that evening. At the hospital, I found Grandma Lauren weak, but smiling when she saw me. "My Amanda," she whispered, holding my hand. I stayed through the night, telling her about work and keeping things light. "I always knew you'd make your way," she murmured. The next morning, she gave me a small box from her purse. Inside were a key and her will. "The cottage is yours," she said firmly. I tried to reassure her, but she shook her head. 2 days later, she passed away in her sleep, my hand still in hers. The funeral was small, just me, Tiffany the neighbor, and a few church friends. My parents and brother Andrew came distant and cold. At the lawyer's office, I learned Grandma had left me the cottage and her savings. My parents received only keepsakes. "She always favored you," my mother snapped. I said nothing and left with the keys. I moved into the cottage, old but full of character, and began to restore it. With Hannah's help, I set up a home office and started Horizon Marketing. Work slowly came in, and I began to find stability. The town welcomed me, and I grew close to Ryan, who ran the local bookstore. 6 months later, Andrew suddenly called, too cheerful after years of silence. Soon after, my parents reached out with questions about the cottage. Then I noticed a car parked near my house too often, and neighbors mentioned someone asking about me. Andrew had already tried and failed to contest the will. One evening, I received an anonymous email: "Your brother owes $80,000 to dangerous people. Watch your back." Fear settled in, and I realized the fight for Grandma's legacy wasn't over. The anonymous email about Andrew's $80,000 debt haunted me for nights. Then William Vance, the investigator Andrew had hired against me, called. "I was supposed to dig up dirt on you," he admitted, "but your brother's in with dangerous people. He owes 80 grand due in 10 days. Your family's planning something. Be ready." His warning proved true. Dad had lost his career in disgrace, Mom's health bills piled up, and Andrew convinced them my cottage was their salvation. While I was at a marketing conference, Mrs. Nguyen texted that she'd seen lights in my house. Checking my cameras, I saw my parents and Andrew unloading boxes, moving in like it was theirs. When I called, Andrew answered my landline, Thompson residence. I flew home early. Ryan met me at the airport and drove me straight there. Inside, my family had replaced my things with theirs. Mom cooking, Dad in my room, Andrew in my office. "This house is too big for you," Dad said. "A family home should help family." Mom added, "You don't even have kids. We need this more." Andrew waved papers claiming adverse possession. I kept calm. You have 3 minutes to regret this. They laughed, certain I was powerless. Instead, I uploaded the break-in footage to my lawyer, called Andrew's creditors with his location, and then dialed 911. Moments later, creditors' SUVs screeched up alongside police cruisers. Chaos erupted, creditors shouting Andrew's name, police forcing order. I showed the officers my deed and security footage. "This is my home," I said. Dad tried to argue family, but the officer cut him short. "That doesn't give you rights." They were ordered to pack and leave. Escorted out, their faces showed anger, shame, and fear. The evidence later proved their scheme texts between them, plotting to move in and force me out. Watching them go, I felt fury and relief in equal measure. They had underestimated me and lost. Watching the police escort my family out of my cottage was both relief and grief. Their humiliated faces, Dad's clenched jaw, Mom's tears. Andrew's panic stayed with me. But as their taillights faded, I felt something shift. For the first time, I had stood my ground, and it felt right. The legal fight dragged on for months. With security footage and William Vance's testimony, my lawyer secured a restraining order against them. Andrew's own texts revealed their plan: break-in claim, adverse possession, guilt me into surrender. The court rejected it easily. Grandma Lauren's medical records proved her sound mind, and her will stood firm. Andrew fared the worst. His gambling debts pushed him into bankruptcy, his assets seized. He pled guilty to trespassing, serving probation, and community service. My parents wasted their savings on legal fees, their reputation in town destroyed. A year later, they sent me a blank Christmas card. I burned it in the fire pit. That was my final goodbye. Life moved forward. Ryan and I grew closer, and on the anniversary of the break-in, he proposed in Grandma's garden. 6 months later, we married there, surrounded not by blood relatives, but by the people who had truly shown up for me. Horizon Marketing thrived. I hired help, turned the garage into a studio, and built a network of clients across Texas. The cottage became not only my sanctuary, but a foundation for others. In Grandma's name, I launched a program offering housing and internships to young adults cast out by their families. Christina, my first mentee, reminded me of myself, told she was selfish for chasing design over accounting. Supporting her felt like carrying forward Grandma's belief in me. Looking back, I see the arc clearly, from sleeping in my car to building a business, a home, and a new kind of family. The cottage proved I deserved space, dreams, and boundaries. My revenge wasn't anger, it was success they could never touch. Family isn't blood, I tell the support group where I now share my story. It's respect shown through action. Set boundaries early, or you'll lose yourself to their demands. Freedom comes from self-reliance, not their approval. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this resonates, share your story below. Have you had to set boundaries with family? Your voice matters, and it might be the lifeline someone else needs.